next 25 years. And if you see, the foundation has already been laid with the initiatives like your productivity linked incentives that they had given, new public sector enterprise policy, National Bank for financing infrastructure. So many policies already been in place. It is just building on whatever has already been built on by the government in terms of the vision that it has for India. Uh, after Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, the way they have come out, the government have come out with Sabka Prayas. It's absolutely just the right strategy in place for what we need right now, because more and more governance, it is becoming governance based compliance. Therefore, Sabka Prayas only will take us to the 5 trillion economy by 2025. Now, in this budget, I think whatever could be improved on has been improved on. There's such a progressive, few of the policies, if you see, are so progressive. From National Rope-Based Development Program to branding millets products. Imagine, I mean, for the first time, the government has thought, while in the agricultural sector, branding millet products, Kisan drones, digital university. So the whole framework has been laid down from bringing the taxation on the digital assets to bringing the digital currency. I think we have the whole framework laid down, and what it will entail to, it will, although we have already seen the maximum FDI in the last quarter, what it will entail to is to make India more investment friendly country, wherein we have the established laws, we have the governance, we have the infrastructure to provide the benefits to the investors. It will attract more and more investment in India. So therefore, we thought that it will be very good if we could have someone, none other than Mr. Mankar, to speak on the topic that when this money is coming in India, how does it get valued? Because if you see, if there needs any valuation, any issuance of security by a company in India needs valuation. So therefore, we requested Mr. Neshad Mankarji to speak on that how we as registered valuer can tap on this opportunity by knowing these provisions. So let me welcome Mr. Neshad Mankarji, who is going to talk about, who is the most senior member in with AVP. So, sir, welcome from all of us. We are so glad that you have taken out time to address us all. And as a protocol, I would encourage everyone to register as a member with AVP, because we are an organization of valuers. And let me tell you that we don't only enroll registered valuer, we are open to any enrollment which to any professional who would like to know about valuation and who would like to get acquainted with this field. So I would now hand it over to Sandeep ji to introduce Mr. Neshad.
Only one thing, welcome Nishad ji. Only one thing I want to say about Nishad ji. He is, though looking very young, but he is more than 70 years of age, and he qualified valuers examination at the age of 70 with more than 70% of marks. So really appreciable and welcome to Nishad ji. Now our member Sangeeta Parmar will formally introduce Nishad ji and do the AVP presentation. Yes, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Sandeep Agarwal sir. Sudha ma'am, and our speaker of the day, Nishad Mankar ji. As very well said by Sudha ma'am, very well started the meeting with the introduction of the budget and introduction of the Association of Valuation Professional. I am C. Sangeeta Parmar. I would like to give more light on our Association of Valuation Professionals. Who we are, what we are doing, and why you should come with us to join our Association of Valuation Professionals. So, our president of AVP is Ram Mohan Bhave sir. The message from him is the sole objective of AVP is to work in national interest in professionalizing valuation as vocation. Then here AVP have ventured with joint hand with IIV, RVF. What is the benefit of being a life membership of AVP, and how you can be a member? So interested candidate can become life member by just paying ₹5,000 only. That is for one time. Not only RV can be the member in AVP, any professional who are interested in valuation can become member. Here AVP we have achieved some milestone, like we have tied up with the 4 CPRs with IIF, RVO, Pune. Till date, we have become strength of 155 members, and in this members we have foreign countries as well as iconic personalities like past president from ICMAI, internationally certified valuer and prominent speaker. Till date, we have published 9 e-newsletter and 1 Independence Day special newsletter, 45 webinars covering different topics already held by the legends. Then some light on what about IIV, RVF. IIV, India Registered Valuer Foundation, is recognized by IBBI as Registered Valuer Organization as per the provisions of Companies Registered Valuer and Valuation Rule 2017. Architecture Elias Amin Sheikh is a Managing Director of IIV RVF. IIV RVF is to promote and develop the profession of valuers. IIV RVF has been contributing immensely to the enhancement of valuer through its academic program and imparting teaching. IIV RVF conducts 50 hours training program for registration as registered valuer with IIB for all class of assets. Till date, IIV RVF has trained 1,400 members for IBBI 50 hours training, and more than 246 members are successfully registered with IBBI. Now, some light about Sme Chamber of India. As everybody knows about SME. SME is working for the development of SMEs from manufacturing, service sector, and allied industries, business sector for last 28 years, providing unique support to SMEs, young and women entrepreneurs, and startups to convert business ideas, converting new concepts into profitable business ventures for better development as well as transition and transformations. Channelizing finance from banks and FIs, export finance, venture capital, etc., for enhancement of business activities. Why join AVP? Why join AVP as a life member? You will get free webinars, at least 2 each month, like you are attending this one. Mentoring newly registered valuer, mentoring students, monthly e-newsletter for sharing knowledge. Then you can also write up for the newsletters. Networking at national and international level. Study of IVS and valuation standard issued by various bodies. Can participate in activities of various committees formed. Chance to attend international webinars at discounted price. Formation of various study groups to enrich arts knowledge in particular area of work. 26 days knowledge sharing event already fixed for upcoming webinars. CEPR's credit under continuation education program in association with IIV India Registered Weather Foundation RPO. Till date, we have done more than 45 webinars, which are by the prominent speakers. You can see on the screen, or we have already covered many topics which are like Zomato IPO valuation. We have covered eShops valuation already. Webinar had been taken for that. And there's already upcoming webinar fixed up to the October 2022. So you can see these are prominent topics which are required in the field of valuation. And for any other queries, like for membership assistance, you can contact our head resource committee, Mr. Nitin Brahma. For webinars related query, you can contact our head professional development committee, Sandeep Agrawal sir. And for any other query, you can contact our president, Mr. Ram Mohan Bhavi sir. That's all about the AVP value. Now, as per agenda, now I have to introduce our speaker of the day. I would like to welcome Nishad Mankat sir. Nishad sir, one thing where while I was going through the profile of sir, the only thing which come to my mind is मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, पंखों से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है. So I must say you will also agree to the same if you also go to the profile of sir. Nishad sir, despite of being age of 70, still learning and being inspiration to all of us that age is just a number. Sir has qualified BSc from Nagpur University, LLB from Mumbai University, CA IIB Indian Institute of Bankers, ACS Institute of Company Secretary of India. Sir has done many small short-term professional courses. And if you go with the experience count, then you can see how consistency make you the perfect, how consistency make you the top level of your career. Sir has started his career in 1970 as a machine operator cum laboratory assistant in rubber factory. Work as color mixing assistant in textile dyeing and printing unit. Joined Bank of Baroda in clerical cadre in 1973 and was promoted to officer cadre in 1978. Worked in advanced department, handled account of 6 companies in textile and chemical industry. Left Bank of Baroda in 1983 to pursue career as a company secretary. Worked in mid-sized company like Ruby Coach Builder, Gujarat Strachco Clutch Limited, Lime Chemical Group, Gandhi Special Tube Limited. Handled corporate compliance functions and finance functions in these companies. Currently working as a company secretary and compliance officer with Baba Arts Limited, a listed company on BSc Limited. Also promoter and director of On Source Consultant Private Limited, a company providing services in the area of corporate consultancy and compliance under the Companies Act, Income Tax Act, GST, Financial Service Management Consultancy Service. As said by Sandeep Agrawal sir has recently cleared his RB exam, which many of us are struggling to clear with the maximum marks like 70%. So, sir, you are being an inspiration to all of us. I would like to call Mr. Nishant Mankad sir to give some knowledge and start your presentation, please. Over to you, sir. Over to you, Nishant sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
First of all, I would like to thank AVP and the president of AVP, Bhave sir, for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation before this learned audience here. I would also like to thank Ms. Nidhi and Mr. Ashish for coordinating and arranging for this webinar and making my presentation possible. I would like to just mention here that in my career as for over 40 years, this is the first time that I'm making this presentation. So I'm a little bit emotional also. And I'm not sure how this presentation will come up, but I have tried to prepare this presentation, and let me see whether you all like it or not. So let us start with the presentation now. Today's presentation is going to be on the Companies Act, valuation under Companies Act and SEBI. I would also at some places touch upon the valuation requirements under FEMA and Income Tax Act, and I would say something on under IBBI also. Let me. Is this screen visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So the valuation, as you all know, valuation under Companies Act was a new concept which was introduced under the Companies Act 2013. And it was introduced wide section 247 of the Act. The purpose of this section was to regulate the valuation of various assets and liabilities related to company and to standardize the procedure of valuation in line with international valuation standards. Before introduction of this section 247 and the relevant rules, the valuation process was not regulated, and it was being conducted in an arbitrary manner. There were, instances of window dressing in valuation, and the authenticity of valuation was being questioned on many occasions. So this section has enabled the valuation process to be regulated and to become more transparent. So the relevant section for valuation, as I said, section 247 of the Act, and the relevant rules is the Companies Registered Valuers and Valuation Rules 2017, which came into effect from 18th October 2017. the valuation rules and of course the valuation profession is to be administered by IBBI, and of course the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, by its notification dated 23rd October 2017, has appointed IBBI to administer and perform the functions under the rules. Of course, this transition period is already over. So the transition period from up to 31st January, the existing valuers who were carrying out valuation were allowed to issue the valuation certificate. And from 1st of February, only those valuers who are registered as registered valuers with IBBI are now allowed to undertake the valuation exercise and give valuation reports to companies on its assets or liabilities. It may be remembered by everybody that these valuation rules or the section 247, that is requirement of valuation by a registered valuer, is applicable only to valuations covered under the Companies Act. Valuation under any other regulation shall not be affected, and those valuation under those particular regulations shall be as per specification of those particular regulations, unless those regulations also specify that the valuation should be covered by valuation should be done by a registered valuer. Like, you know, SEBI or FEMA or Income Tax Act, still the registered valuers are not recognized, and so in under SEBI or FEMA, valuations are being carried out by merchant bankers, or in some cases chartered accountants also, who are not registered as registered valuers. Now, this is this screen where you can see the tremendous scope for valuation. If you see, the valuation is required for accounting purpose. For example, under ESOP, for valuing the employee compensation cost, for determining the impaired or diminution in value of assets, purchase price allocation, that is in case of acquisition of a company or business, the valuation of after accounting for valuation of various assets and liabilities, the goodwill accounting has to be done based on this. Then fair value under Ind AS for various requirements, that is also to be done by registered valuer, or at least that requires valuation. Then there are transactions like mergers, acquisitions, sale of business, fundraising, voluntary assessment by companies to just determine what is the value of my company. Then, of course, there is regulatory requirement under RBI, that is FEMA, at the time of issue of shares or transfer of shares to non-resident Indians or foreign nationals. Under income tax, again, for the purpose of determining capital gain tax. Under the Companies Act and NCLT for issue of shares or etc. Similarly, under SEBI also there is a requirement of valuation for at the time of preferential issue of shares, etc. So, as Ms. Sudha very rightly said, with the India growth story still being there, and I think it will be there for next 25 years, there is a tremendous scope for the registered valuers, and I think that registered valuers will have to take up this profession on an independent basis, and it will be difficult for them to carry on other activities like audits or taxation if they are going to do the valuation, if they are going to take up the valuation profession. Here we will also see that under the Companies Act, the requirement is that valuation should be at least minimum value at which the shares are to be issued, or etc. Under the Income Tax Act, of course, because their income tax is all about collection of tax, the valuation requirement, I mean, it will be that it should be valued at the maximum amount, because based on the maximum amount only the government will be able to raise more revenue. Can somebody help me with how to minimize this? So again, this is another slide where we see various statutes under which evaluation is required. For example, fresh issue of shares, valuation is required under Reserve Bank of India Act for FDI, foreign direct investment, that is investment by non-resident Indians or foreign nationals or overseas body corporates. Then again under Reserve Bank of India Act, when an Indian entity or a person wants to invest in overseas companies, overseas direct investment, then also the valuation is required. Under SEBI law, under various provisions, under income tax law, I have already mentioned, under Companies Act for issue of shares, transfer of shares, etc. Again, in the case of business combination, like scheme of arrangement, mergers, acquisition, arrangement with creditors, corporate restructuring, etc. The valuation is required under Companies Act, under SEBI, and under financial reporting, that is under Ind AS or accounting standards. For transfer of shares, again, the valuation is required under RBI, for ODI also, and FDI, under income tax law, again for capital gains tax, etc. For under accounting, for issue of ESOP or sweat equity shares, again, the valuation is required under income tax law, company law, and again Ind AS accounting standard also. So as I said, again, once again, I want to repeat that there is a tremendous scope for valuation professionals, and we should all take up this opportunity, take up this challenge, and take the benefit of this. Now, I'll come to the valuation requirement under the Companies Act, under various provisions of the Companies Act and SEBI. So the first requirement for valuation under the Companies Act is in case of issue of shares for consideration other than cash. Whenever a company wants to issue shares to anyone for consideration other than cash, then the company needs to value both the value of the shares and the value of the consideration which is to be against which the shares are to be issued. So here, whether under Companies Act, whether valuation is required, yes. Under SEBI also, the valuation is required. Applicable regulation or rule is Rule 12(5) of the Company's Prospectus and Allotment Rules 2014. And under SEBI, it is Regulation 164(3) of SEBI ICDR Regulation 2018. Valuation to be done by whom? Here, under the Companies Act, it is registered valuer. Under the SEBI, it is not registered valuer. Please be careful. It is by an independent valuer who can be a chartered accountant or a merchant banker. And what is the maximum valuation? The price of shares to be issued under the Companies Act, the price of shares to be issued shall not be less than the price as determined by the registered valuer. Under SEBI, the price of shares to be issued shall not be less than the price determined by an independent valuer or a merchant banker. So here we are talking of the minimum price at which the shares should be issued when they are issued for a consideration other than cash. Of course, as you all know, SEBI is applicable only in case of listed companies. Otherwise, the provisions under the Companies Act for unlisted companies will be applicable. I'm sorry, I'm not very much conversant with this, PowerPoint presentation, etc. So next requirement for valuation under the Companies Act and under the SEBI is in respect of allotment of shares, preferential allotment of shares and allotment of shares by way of private placement. Now, very often this the provisions of of preferential allotment and private placement are overlapping. If you see, private placement provisions are there under section 42 of the Act, and preferential allotment provisions are covered under section 62 of the Act. But section 62 also mentions that while making private placement, the provisions under section 42 also should be complied with. So before we go into the requirement of valuation under for both preferential allotment and private placement, I would just like to briefly deal with the difference between preferential allotment and private placement. I will, maybe this is a somewhat divergent from the topic, but I thought it is necessary that we also know what is that key difference between preferential allotment and private placement. So if you see, the relevant section for private placement is section 42 and rule 13 of the company's share capital and debenture rule 2014. And for preferential allotment, the section is section 62 and rule 14 of the company's prospectus and allotment of securities rules. So here it is share capital and debentures rules. Here it is prospectus and allotment of securities rules. For private placement, authorization is required by a special resolution of the members in general meeting. For preferential allotment, first of all, the company's articles of association must contain a provision to make preferential allotment, and then it should be also approved by a special resolution of the members. If there is no provision in the article of association, then the company should first amend the article of association to enable it to make a preferential issue allotment, and then only it can proceed with preferential allotment. So this is one of the key differences of this. Private placement can be made to select group of persons identified by the board. Preferential allotment can be made to the existing members, employees, or other persons, as may be approved by the members in the general meeting. One major difference: private placement can be made for equity shares or any other kind of securities. That is, private placement can be made for preference shares, debentures, non-convertible debentures also, which may or may not be convertible into equity. But preferential allotment can be made only for equity shares or securities convertible into equity shares. That is, preference shares or debentures, etc., which are not convertible into equity shares, are not covered, cannot be issued by way of a preferential allotment. This is a very big difference between private placement and preferential allotment. Again, consideration for private placement can be paid only through any banking channel. That means it cannot be made in cash or for consideration other than cash. But preferential allotment consideration can be made in cash or for consideration other than cash. This is also a major difference. Offer letter for private placement, the offer letter has to be in the prescribed format, PAS 4. For preferential allotment, there is no offer letter prescribed. For private placement, a record of private placement is required to be maintained in format given in PAS 5. No format is prescribed for preferential allotment. However, it should be noted that names of the proposed allottees to whom shares or securities are to be issued by way of preferential allotment has to be disclosed in the explanatory statement of the general meeting. Time limit. Under private placement, allotment should be made within 60 days from the date of receipt of the subscription money. Under preferential allotment, allotment should be made within 12 months from the date of passing of the special resolution. In case of listed companies, allotment should be made within 15 days of passing of the special. So in case the preferential allotment is being made by an unlisted company, the entire process of preferential allotment should be completed within 12 months. But in case of a listed company, the allotment should be completed within 15 days of passing of the special resolution. So these are the key differences, even though maybe I have diverted from the main subject, but I thought this was an important thing for everybody to know. So let us go back to Okay, so in case of, as we say, so yes, so this was the difference before we went into this. Now, under the Companies Act, under SEBI Act, under Income Tax, yeah, here I am covering little bit of Income Tax Act and FEMA also. So for both preferential allotment and private placement, whether valuation is required under Companies Act, it says yes. Under SEBI Act, valuation is not required to be made by any valuer, but it is to be done as per the pricing formula. Price of the shares to be issued under preferential allotment or private placement is to be as per the formula given as per the SEBI pricing formula. Under Companies Act, the price of shares to be shall not be less than the price determined by the registered valuer. Under Income Tax Act, Section 56(2), 7B and Rule 11 UA 2A or Rule 11 UA 2B, if the shares are issued at a book value or net asset value as we call, then the company may substantiate the same by obtaining a CS certificate. And if the shares are issued at a price other than NAV, then the valuation has to be done under DCF method. And this valuation should be done by a merchant banker. Here, the Income Tax Act does not prescribe that valuation will be done by a registered valuer, but it says that the valuation should be done by a merchant banker only. Similarly, under FEMA, the valuation is required, but it is to be done by, it can be done by a CA or a SEBI registered merchant banker. Again, under FEMA also, for listed entities, as per SEBI pricing formula, for unlisted entities, valuation should be done as per the international accepted pricing methodology for valuation on an arm's length basis, which should be duly certified by a chartered accountant or a SEBI registered merchant banker. So under FEMA also, it does not require, 1 minute. It does not require that the valuation should be done by a registered valuer. It can be done by a chartered accountant or a SEBI registered merchant banker. So this we have already seen key difference between private placement and preferential allotment. Yeah. So 1 second, sorry. So as we see, we saw here that for SEBI, the valuation, the price at which the shares are to be issued should be as per pricing formula of the SEBI as prescribed by the SEBI. So the SEBI pricing formula says that for the frequently traded shares and for infrequently traded shares. So first, let us see what is the difference, what is the definition of a frequently traded shares. So frequently traded shares are those, the trading in those shares during the 12 preceding months is at least 10% of the total number of shares of such class of target company. So if the total number of shares of a company is say 1000, and during the 12 preceding months, if the trading in those shares is less than 100, then it will not be treated as frequently traded shares, but it will be treated as infrequently traded shares. So the pricing formula for frequently traded shares is, if the shares are listed for less than 26 weeks, then it should not be less than higher of the following, that is IPO price, that is, or the price arrived at under the scheme of amalgamation arrangement, or average weekly high and low of weighted average volume weighted average price during the period of which the shares have been traded, or average of weekly high and low of the volume weighted average price during 2 weeks preceding the relevant date. So all these three, whichever is the higher price, should be the price at which the share should be issued by way of private placement or under preferential allotment if the shares are listed for less than 26 weeks. If the shares are listed for 26 weeks and above, then the price should not be less than higher of the following. That is, weekly average of weekly high and low of volume weighted average price during 26 weeks preceding the relevant date, or average of weekly high and low of volume weighted average price during 2 weeks preceding the relevant date. So whichever is higher, that price should be considered. Here there is some relaxation for stressed companies where the price should be determined on the basis of average of weekly high and low of volume weighted average price during 2 weeks. So the requirement of volume weighted average price of 26 weeks is not applicable in case of a stressed company. Similarly, where the issue on private placement basis is to specified QIPs, then the pricing should be determined on the basis of average of weekly high and low of volume weighted average price during 2 weeks preceding the relevant date. And for pricing formula for infrequently traded shares, the price is to be arrived at after considering valuation parameters like book value, market multiples, supported by a certificate obtained from an independent valuer. Again, here SEBI talks of independent valuer, which is a merchant banker and not a registered valuer. So requirement of registered valuer is not there, but of course, merchant banker can value the shares for under the SEBI. So that was about the requirement of valuation and various provisions under the Companies Act, SEBI, Income Tax Act, and FEMA. The next requirement for valuation will be in respect of rights issue of shares. So rights issue of shares is again covered by section 62(1)(a) of the Companies Act. Under SEBI, it is covered under regulation 28(1) of SEBI ICDR regulations. Under Income Tax Act, it is covered under section 56(2)(7)(b), rule 11(u)(a)(2)(a) or rule 11(u)(a)(2)(b). Under FEMA, it is covered under regulation 11 of FEMA 20.
So can I ask a question?
Shall we keep the questions at the end?
Yes, you can. If it is important, you can take.
Just one small, I mean, it's a very small question, yes or no. Under the Companies Act regarding this valuation requirement, so if the company is issuing a convertible security, so I mean the valuation requirement is at the time of issuing the convertible instrument, or it is at the time of doing the conversion into shares?
It is at the time of, I mean, you can decide at the time of issue of convertible instrument also. Yes. I will have to check this up. I'm not very much sure, but yes, it is required at the time of conversion, or it can be at the time of conversion also based on valuation at that time. Let me get back to you on this.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, so rights issue of shares, under the Companies Act, there is no need for valuation. Under SEBI also, there is no need for valuation. The issuer may determine the issue price in consultation with the merchant banker under SEBI's Act. Under Companies Act, of course, there is no need for valuation. Under Income Tax Act, there is a need for valuation, because if the shares are issued at a price at NAV, then again, the company may substantiate the same by obtaining CS certificate for NAV. If the shares are issued at a price other than NAV, then valuation to be done under DCF method by a merchant banker. Again, here, a chartered accountant or a registered valuer is not required. Only merchant banker can do the valuation. Under FEMA, valuation is required, but it can be done by a chartered accountant or a SEBI registered merchant banker. Here also, it is not necessary that valuation should be done by registered merchant banker. Under FEMA, again, for listed entities, the valuation to be done as per SEBI pricing formula. For unlisted entities, valuation to be done as per internationally accepted pricing methodology for valuation on an arm's length basis, certified by a chartered accountant or a SEBI registered merchant banker. So under FEMA, a CA or a merchant banker can do a valuation. It is not necessary that it should be done by a registered valuer. There is a question in case of renunciation under rights issue, whether valuation required, or in case under subscription, non-subscription of rights issue, a board allots to non-shareholders whether valuation required. So generally what we do is many chartered accountants or company secretaries, they advise the companies that if you want to avoid valuation, just make a rights issue, and the existing shareholders can renounce the shares in favor of somebody else, some third party, and there will be no need for right issue. While yes, to some extent they may be right, but if you go look at the spirit of the requirement, then I would suggest that if you know from the beginning only that the existing shareholders are not going to take up, then it is better that you get the shares valued, the valuation done by a registered valuer. Even when the shares, when the right issue is not fully subscribed, in that case also, I think the board of directors, before proceeding with the allotment of shares as per their discussion to some other persons, it would be better if they get the valuation done by a registered valuer. In case of bonus issue, there is no need for valuation. Bonus issue can be done without any kind of valuation, because bonus issues are being issued just by way of capitalization of the company's free reserves, and so there is no need for valuation. Then there is a requirement of valuation. The question of valuation comes under sweat equity issue. Under the Companies Act, the sweat equity is covered under section 54(1)(d), rule 8 of the company share capital rules 2014. So for sweat equity, yes, valuation is required by registered valuer. And under SEBI, the sweat equity is covered under regulation 33 and 34 of SEBI share-based employee benefits and sweat equity regulations. And under SEBI, the pricing of shares is to be as per pricing formula, which we have already seen, 26 weeks to and all those things. For sweat equity, what is to be valued? So for sweat equity, the valuation is to be done of two things. One is the equity shares, and then the valuation of the IPR or know-how or value addition for which the sweat equity shares are to be issued. So once both the things are valued, then the ratio of equity shares to be issued will be determined on that basis. Valuation methodology, Black and Scholes model or intrinsic value. Under SEBI, the pricing shall be determined as per SEBI pricing formula, which is average of weekly high and low of the closing prices during the last 6 months preceding the relevant date, during the 2 weeks preceding the relevant date. Relevant date means 30 days prior to the date on which the general meeting is convened. Valuation of IPR value addition to be done by a merchant banker, supported by a certificate from an independent CA. That valuation is as per relevant accounting standards. Similarly, for ESOP, one minute, just. Employee stock option plan or employee stock purchase plan. Under the Companies Act, the relevant section is 62(1)(b), Rule 12 of the company's share capital and debentures rules. Under SEBI, It is Regulation 17 of SEBI Share-Based Employee Benefits and Sweat Equity Regulation 2021. Valuation for the purpose of accounting, it is AS 15. Under Income Tax Act, it is perquisites under section, valuation is required for the purpose of perquisites under section 17(2)(6). So the requirement is under for calculating the compensation cost under Income Tax Act and under the accounting standards, and under this Income Tax Act, it is for the purpose of determining the perquisite value of taxable in the hands of the employee. For the purpose of determining employee compensation cost, valuation can be done by a chartered accountant, and for the purpose of determining the perquisite, it is to be done by a merchant banker. Here, the valuation is to be done for compensation cost, and here the valuation under Income Tax Act, the valuation is done of perquisite value at the time of exercise of option. That is the difference between the exercise price and fair market value at the time of exercise of option. And at the time of sale of shares, being the difference between the sale price and the fair market value at the time of exercise of option. Under the Companies Act, valuation methodology, company is free to decide the exercise price. Under the SEBI, company is free to decide the exercise price. For the purpose of accounting standard 15, it is the Black and School model for listed companies, and for unlisted companies, intrinsic value method companies. Under Income Tax Act, again, for listed companies, price of share on a recognized stock exchange. For unlisted companies, Black and School model or intrinsic value method. For buyback of shares, the relevant section is section 73B of the Companies Act, and under SEBI, it is SEBI Buyback Regulation 2018. For buyback of shares, there is no need for valuation. So by whom and what is to be valued? For buyback of share, actually there is no need for valuation of shares. Under income tax also, there is no requirement for valuation of shares. Under FEMA, for buyback of shares, for listed company, for unlisted company, only it is required. For unlisted company, it is to be as per price determined by the company in accordance with SEBI buyback regulations. Here it is to be done by a merchant banker, and the price, buyback price of shares should not be more than the value arrived at as per the valuation report by a valuer or a merchant banker. Whenever company is providing money for purchase of its own shares by employees or by trustees for the benefit of employees, then under the Companies Act, the relevant section is section 67(3)(b) and Rule 16 of the Company's Share Capital and Debentures Rule 2014. And here, the valuation is required by registered valuer, and valuation of shares which are to be purchased is to be done by the registered valuer. Similarly, under SEBI, the shares are to be purchased only through a recognized stock exchange, so there is no need for a valuation. When the company is issuing secured debentures, then the assets on which charge is to be created to secure the debentures, those assets are to be valued, and that the amount of debenture shall not exceed the market value of the asset as determined by the registered valuer. So in case of secured debentures, the value of the assets is to be determined, and it's to be done by a registered valuer only. Whenever there is a requirement of valuation of any asset under the Companies Act, then that valuation has to be done by a registered valuer. That registered valuer should be a securities and financial assets valuer, or plant and machinery, or land and building valuer. So what is to be valued under this? That is, valuation of undertakings or assets of the company, wherever it is necessary, shall be done by registered valuer only. For example, in case of demerger or spin-off, the valuation is to be done by a registered valuer. Similarly, if the director of a company is holding subsidiary asset company, or a person connected with him acquires or is to acquire assets for consideration other than cash from the company or vice versa, the value of such assets involved shall be determined by a registered valuer only. In case of a compromise or arrangement, under section 230 of the Companies Act, the valuation is required to be done by a registered valuer. And the valuation should be done in respect of shares, property or assets, tangible and intangible, movable, immovable of the company by a registered valuer. Whenever there is a compromise or arrangement between members, such as in case of mergers or amalgamation, or with creditors, corporate debt, CDR, then such valuation is required to be shared with the notice of creditors, shareholders meeting under scheme of compromise or arrangement. In case of merger and amalgamation also, under section 232 and 232 of the Companies Act, valuation is required by registered valuer, and the report of the registered valuer with regard to valuation, if any, that should be circulated to the creditors and members. Sorry. And whenever an exit opportunity is given to the shareholders, then also the assets of the company should be valued. Similarly, under section 236 of the Companies Act 2013, when the shares of a minority shareholding is to be purchased, then the valuation is to be done by a registered valuer. The acquirer or person or group of persons under subsection 1 shall offer to the minority shareholders of the company for buying the equity shares held by such shareholders at a price determined on the basis of valuation by a registered valuer. So in case of purchase of minority shareholding also, the valuation of shares should be done. Under section 234 of the Companies Act, whenever there is cross-border merger, there also the valuation is required to be done by a registered valuer. If a foreign company is to be merged with an Indian company or vice versa, then the valuation of shares is to be done by a registered valuer. Whenever there is when a company is going under liquidation, then the liquidator has to submit a report on valuation of the company, and that valuation also has to be carried out by a registered valuer. So valuation of assets for submission of report by liquidator to the tribunal in case of winding up is required to be done by a registered valuer only. In case of voluntary winding up, the company is required to submit a declaration of solvency as per section 59 3B2 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and regulation 31B2 of the IBBI voluntary liquidation process declaration. And that valuation also is required to be done by a registered valuer only. Here, where a proposal for voluntary wind up has been made by a company, and if the company has any assets, the declaration of solvency shall be accompanied by a report on valuation of the asset done by a registered valuer only. Under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, also avoidable transactions, that is transactions which were done with any person during 1 year preceding the insolvency commencement date, or with a related party within a period of 2 years preceding the insolvency commencement date, then the adjudicating authority may require an independent expert to assess evidence relating to the value of the transactions. If any transaction is done during 1 year preceding the commencement date, which is done at a value which is not the exact value of that particular asset, then the valuation may be required, particularly if it is done with a related party within 2 years preceding the insolvency commencement date, or with any other person during 1 year preceding, then that transaction, if the value that transaction is done at a value less than the value arrived at by the valuer, then that transaction can be avoided. So now the requirement of appointment of registered valuers. Whenever a resolution professional is appointed, within 7 days of his appointment, he will appoint 2 registered valuers to determine the liquidation value of the corporate debtor in accordance with regulation 35 of the insolvency regulations 2016. And such resolution professional shall within 7 days of his appointment, but not later than 47th day from the insolvency commencement date, appoint 2 registered valuers to determine the fair value and liquidation value of the corporate debtor in accordance with the regulation 35. So here what is to be determined is the fair value and the liquidation value of the assets of the company by 2 separate valuers. Wherever the liquidator wants to sell any asset of the company which is under liquidation, then the assets to be sold by liquidator shall also be valued by a registered valuer as per regulation 35 of IBBI liquidation process regulation 2016. Similarly, under regulation 26 of the IBBI fast track insolvency resolution process for corporate persons and regulation 34 of IBBI fast track insolvency resolution process for corporate persons regulations 2017, the appointment of registered valuation, if there is a need for appointment of registered valuer, and within 7 days of his appointment, the resolution professional appoint 1 registered valuer to determine the fair value and the liquidation value of the corporate debtor in accordance with the regulation 34. And under regulation 34 of IBBI fast track insolvency process corporate persons regulation 2017, the valuer will determine fair value and liquidation value. The registered valuer appointed under regulation 26 shall submit to the resolution professional an estimate of the fair value and liquidation value of the company or the assets. Under SEBI Act, there are various requirements for submission of valuation report. Under SEBI ICDR Regulation 2018, the provision of preferential allotment shall not apply to certain cases. Where the specified securities are issued on a preferential basis for consideration other than cash, the valuation of the assets in consideration for which the equity shares are issued shall be done by an independent valuer, which shall be submitted to the stock exchange where the equity shares of the issuer are listed. So, in case of issue of shares for consideration other than cash, the valuation, the valuation of the assets against which the shares are to be issued should be done by an independent valuer. And that valuation report should be submitted to the stock exchange where the shares are listed. And further, if the stock exchange is not satisfied with the appropriateness of the valuation, it may get the valuation done by another valuer. And for this purpose, it may seek information as deemed necessary from the issuer. Similarly, sorry. What happened? Just a minute. I'm sorry, something is wrong. I'm sorry, something is wrong. 1 minute. I think something is gone wrong. अरे हेलो, अरे मैं सडनली ब्लैंक हो गया, मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा।
सर एक बार आप ना अनशेयर करके रीशेयर कर लीजिए।
Yes, sir. Do one thing. Just unshare and then share. It will work out. There must be some problem in the laptop.
ये क्या है सब ये?
Just close the PPT and try once again, sir.
मेरे को, मैं तो एकदम ब्लैंक हो गया। एक मिनट। मैं पूरा ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ यार। हाँ
Sir, your PPT is visible to all of us. You can just unshare, stop share, and reopen it again like you have earlier opened it.
ये नहीं है, नहीं ये कौन सा ये कुछ अलग ही फाइल आ गई है क्या?
No, sir, this is the same file.
हेलो, नहीं रे, मैं पूरा ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ अभी। हाँ ये कुछ अलग ही हो गया है, भगवान।
Everything is fine, sir. Nothing wrong with it.
Sir, this is the same file from where you have given your presentation.
Yes.
क्या हो गया, मेरे समझ में नहीं आ रहा।
So, however, it is visible to us absolutely right.
कुछ अलग ही आ गया रे, एकदम समझ में। नहीं, ये कुछ अलग ही खुल गया है रे। स्लाइड नंबर कौन सी बोल रहे हैं? नहीं, नहीं ये नहीं है, ये कुछ अलग ही खुल गया है। ये कुछ और ही खुल गया रे, ये फाइल ही कुछ अलग खुल गई है। मैं अभी ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ, मेरे को नहीं मालूम। हाँ नहीं नहीं ऐसा कुछ, ये कुछ और ही खुल गया है। ये कुछ और ही खुल गया है, ये फाइल ही अलग खुल गई कुछ।
Sir, just close it and try once again, sir.
हेलो
Sir, Ashish this side.
या
I'm requesting you that you can close this PPT and try once again to share it.
या 1 मिनट,
I think that it will work out.
1 मिनट। I have gone blank. श्रुतिका,
हाँ सर।
अरे मैं थोड़ा ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ यार। ये कहाँ थी?
की रिगार्डिंग बात कर रहे थे।
एक्चुअली मेरे को है ना,
हाँ
एक्चुअली मैं मतलब ये हो गया, मैं कहाँ हूँ वही मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है।
आपको स्टार्टिंग वाले स्लाइड की IDDI में थे आप?
नहीं ये कुछ अलग ही हो गया है यार, ये फाइल ही कुछ अलग खुल गई है।
फाइल सेम है सर, एक ही फाइल है ना आपके लगे।
अगर आप नीचे आओ तो 31
ये सब कहाँ गए? ये सब जो था ये तो आया ही नहीं ना मेरे को।
टॉपिक के बाद सीधा प्राइवेट सेक्शन के बाद नीचे गए थे।
रुक जा,
वो टॉपिक लिया नहीं, कवर नहीं हुआ।
एक मिनट, एक मिनट 2 मिनट मुझे, मैं है ना पूरा ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ अभी। 1 मिनट, ये कहाँ थी ये फ्लाइट, कहाँ हूँ पहले वही मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा। ये सब कहाँ था? ये नीड फॉर वैल्यूएशन वगैरह कहाँ था आपने इसमें?
बोला सर आपने, एक्सप्लेन किया।
ये सब कहाँ एक्सप्लेन किया? ये सब
किया नीड फॉर वैल्यूएशन
नहीं रे।
Sir, you have explained all this, beautifully explained all this.
I have done this.
Yes, sir.
Are you
You
sure?
you are
Yes, sir.
around
Yes, sir.
Slide 23, 24. We have already completed all this.
Have you completed this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Beautifully
sir.
completed.
Then I have gone totally blank.
किया सर आपने just
It's happened when you
You have come almost to the last point, sir. You have come almost to the last point.
कौन सी स्लाइड थी?
the last 31 slide. Sir, 26 slide.
पेज नंबर 26 ही है सर आपका।
Yes.
Yeah.
This all we have done this also.
To be very frank, I have gone blank.
It's happened, sir. Don't worry, it's happened. Nothing new. We have done this one, merger and amalgamation.
No, we have not done.
Madam, you crossed even 33, madam. You crossed
Sir,
even
do
33.
one thing. Sir, I would request you do one thing. Just continue from the 26th slide.
Yes.
ठीक है?
This
We
one?
all are clear before 26th slide. You have done fine, very nice up to 25, right?
Yes, yes.
No,
Yes, sir.
Just start fresh from 26th
आप
slide.
बाकी भूल जाओ,
हाँ
पंकज सर आप भूल जाओ, आप 26 से कंटिन्यू करो.
मैं एक्चुअली ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ, टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक.
तो कोई बात नहीं.
मैं
It's okay.
It's okay, sir. It's
No, no,
okay,
but-
sir. The session was very nice and
I know.
informative.
let me just क्या बोल रहे हैं मैं? Let me just gather myself.
Okay.
1 minute.
Okay.
Just give me 2
Take your-
minutes. Give me 2 minutes.
Take your time. Take your time.
Give me
sir.
2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes.
Your time,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No issue.
Yes.
नहीं, ये कुछ अलग ही आ गया रे बेटा.
सर आप स्लाइड नंबर 26 तक प्रॉपर एक्सप्लेन करें.
अरे पर
फिर मुझे 5 मिनट एक्सप्लेन गड़बड़ की.
हाँ
आप स्लाइड नंबर 26 तक करेक्ट थे. मैंने ये सुना क्रॉस बॉर्डर तक आप आए थे.
26
हाँ,
नहीं वे तो
आगे होगा
मैं
या नहीं होगा.
एक्चुअली मैं ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ, टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक. मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता मैं कहाँ हूँ.
आप 2 मिनट शांत रहो.
हम्म,
शांत श्वास घ्या आणि स्लाइड नंबर 26 से ही कंटिन्यू करो. अभी आप आगे पीछे कुछ मत देखो.
26 तो ये है ना? नहीं ना, ये थोड़ी थी.
वैल्यूएशन ऑफ शेयर्स इन केस ऑफ पर्सनल, अब वही तक थे. क्रॉस बॉर्डर का स्लाइड ले लो.
बायबैक ऑफ शेयर्स आ रहा है. Just give me 2 minutes, huh? Sorry, I'm sorry, really sorry.
हिमेश है वहाँ पे.
हाँ,
हिमेश है वहाँ पे.
अरे ये कुछ दूसरी फाइल खुल गई है एक्चुअली. मैं कहाँ था वही मैं भूल गया हूँ.
सर आपके लैपटॉप में एक ही फाइल है अभी. दूसरी फाइल नहीं हो सकती.
रुक जा एक मिनट, ये कहाँ से खोली है मुझे देखने दे. एक्चुअली
लाइन पर है.
अरे भूल गया मैं यार. जॉन टोटली ब्लैंक. अरे यार ये सब आ गया क्या?
Sir, we can do one thing.
हम्म,
You can start from slide 1. Ask whether you have shown us to or not. Where somebody says that yes, from this we are not already taught. You can start from that slide.
give 1 minute. Should I?
It will give.
हेलो.
हाँ 2 मिनट रुक जा बेटा, मेरे को है ना अभी मैं थोड़ा ब्लैंक हो गया हूँ.
हिमेश थोड़े वाले मुझे अंदर जाओ. ब्लैंक हो गए, पता नहीं ब्लैंक हो गए. उनको शांत करवा. उनको बोल स्लाइड नंबर 26 से कंटिन्यू करें.
तो एમને ફોન કરીને જરા વાત કરો કે શું
वो
કરું?
लिखी रिस्पॉन्स सेंटेंस को. हाँ सर देख लेना.
અચ્છા તો આપણું એટલે જે તમે કહો 1000 કીધું એટલે આપણે બધા તો કેવી રીતે એટલે આપણે કુવાડિયા કુટુંબનું નામથી કરવું છે કે આપણે બધા ઇન્ડિવિડ્યુઅલ? હા
સ્લાઇડ પર આ ક્યાં છે મારી?
તો
આ
પછી
જ છે ને?
તમારું જે 1000 કસ્ટમર. अच्छा अच्छा हाँ 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 तो 1000 कर दे.
नहीं आ નથી.
2060.
नहीं आ नहीं आगे बाकी तो.
This is done.
हाँ.
This is done.
This is done.
Yes.
Actually,
Madam,
I have
he has
gone.
crossed even IPC slides also. It is about 32nd slide or 33rd slide.
I have gone blank suddenly.
Yes, click some slides so that we can see and tell you that whether it has been done or not. You can start from, yes, this is done. Next slide. This is also done, sir.
Huh?
This is also done.
No, I don't think. I don't remember. Suddenly, I have gone blank. Sorry. I'm
Trust
sorry.
us. This is done. And beautifully done. I must say, while I was seeing your presentation, I want to say that your presentation is something which is best of everything. You did it very beautifully.
Is this done? Actually, I have gone totally blank suddenly. I don't know. One minute. Huh?
26.
Sir, you have crossed 33rd slide, sir. In fact,
This is
you are
also done,
that
sir.
you are batting like Viru Mankad. You are really
Yeah, but
doing
now
excellent batting, sir.
Suddenly, I have gone blank. I don't know.
No
Start
issues,
from,
sir. No issues.
No
No
issues,
from this
issues.
sir.
slide. Na?
Come
This
down
is
further,
33rd.
sir. 34. Come to 34.
Yes.
This is where you start
Yes.
now, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
now we started from here.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Very
Yes.
much, sir.
Gone
Very
totally
much.
blank.
Yes, sir.
No,
Yes,
no.
sir.
No, this is different, no?
No, not different. You
We
just
have started this page. We were on this page last time.
Are you sure?
Yes,
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 sir.
yes, sir.
You are explaining this page.
No, I don't remember having done this. Regulation 26.
Chalo, you start from this page only. 33. Don't go back now.
Liquidation. You were talking in about liquidation, sir. 32nd slide.
This one?
This
Yes,
one.
you were
Yes.
talking about liquidation, sir. Very much.
Now start from this slide.
Yes.
I
Onward.
think you'll have to give me 5 minutes to, because
Yes,
I
sir.
have
Go ahead,
gone
sir.
totally
Take your own
blank.
time,
Sorry.
sir.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry.
Then
I'm sorry.
when you resume, start from this slide.
Yes, sir.
આપણે ક્યાં છીએ? એકદમ blank થઈ ગયો છું યાર. I'm sorry, I've gone totally blank. Hmm? Hmm? Blank થઈ ગયું. Oh.
Not any problem. You start from this
No,
slide. Slide
I
number
have gone totally blank. I don't even remember where I am now.
30. Nahi, where you
I'm
are,
sorry,
it is
I'm
okay. Start from that slide. Na, 30.
Not that. Have we done this? No, it's not
Yes,
Yes,
done.
sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir.
100%, sir. 100%.
I don't remember having done this. That's what I'm saying. Suddenly I've gone blank.
You
It
are telling
happens,
very
sir. Don't
clearly,
worry, it
if the
happens.
assets are covered as security for issue of the debentures, those assets need to be valued. You are telling this very clearly. And you are telling that registered valuer means not only building, land, everything. Secured assets, I mean securities, etc. All these points you were explaining beautifully, sir.
Give me 2 minutes. Let me just,
Take your own time, sir.
because suddenly I think I've gone blank. 1 minute. अरे उभी रहने. delete चका है.
सर आप स्टार्टिंग में क्यों जा रहे हो? स्टार्टिंग में मत जाओ.
मैं कहाँ था मुझे?
आप है ना F5 दबाइए. F5. प्रेस F5. ओके. अभी आप रिमेम्बर करो आपने क्या क्या किया. एक एक क्लिक कीजिए. हाँ, स्लाइड 1.
ये किया क्या मैंने? मैं भूल गया पूरा ये.
Yes, sir.
This is done by me.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I have gone totally blank. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. Really sorry.
This is also done, sir. This is done.
All this is done.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Very much so.
Yes, sir.
Then I have gone blank. No, I don't think I have done this.
Sir, we have done this.
This also?
Yes, sir.
All this we have done?
Yes,
This
sir.
is
Yes,
also
sir.
done. This is also done.
Yes, sir. This is also
Yes.
done.
This is also done. Right issue is done. This is done.
This is done. Bonus issue also we have done.
Done.
Sweat
We are
equity
Sweat
also we have
equity
done.
done.
ESOP done.
अरे मैं पूरा blank हो गया हूँ. I'm gone totally blank. To be very
It's
frank.
okay, sir.
No,
Buyback
suddenly I don't know what
options are
happened.
done.
It's okay, sir. And the session was very nice. In
No,
fact,
no, let me just get back. I'm not remembering all these things. How come?
Sir, it
Sir, you
happened.
you can hear the recording. The session was really good and was really, informative.
very informative, and I learned many things and which I never knew before.
Yes, yes.
Fact, yes, of course. It was a very knowledgeable session for me and others also.
1 minute. Let me just. I don't know. Suddenly I've gone blank. Can I? What should I do?
Sir, please start with slide number 32 or, because only last few slides are pending. Only 5-6 slides are pending. Sir. Rest everything you have completed very nice. I was about to, give you a special thanks regarding the presentation.
Yes, you can start from one last slide. This is not done. This
Yes.
we have to done yet.
Start from this.
Can I do one thing? क्या करूँ? Actually, I've gone totally blank. To be very frank, I don't know what happened.
No issue, sir. If you have gone blank, then we can conclude the session also.
No, it should not happen. No, why?
Sir, it's
Start
okay.
Start
Sir,
from
there are
this
two
slide.
options.
Either
You should continue from wherever you want, or we should appreciate you whatever things you have shared, and those were very nice.
This
And
is 37,
most
na,
of us,
so better to start from 32.
all these things we have not done.
Sir, you
All
start
things we have done.
slide number 32 if you can. Otherwise, we can conclude. There is nothing wrong.
Yeah, just start from this slide.
Very informative slides.
This is 32. Start from this
you
slide.
just
Downward.
you just simply read out, sir.
So you just simply read out and we will.
Are you sure we have done all these things? Because
Yes.
I don't remember also. Suddenly I've gone blank.
After this also done.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So how come I have gone blank like this?
It's okay. It happens, sir.
This is done?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What about this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We have done.
Why do I don't remember?
So you don't worry. You start from slide number 32 or 31.
And you simply read out whatever it is written now. It is already very detailed thing you have written.
Yes. Yes. This is 31. Start from this slide. Really. Just read out.
Sir, please press Shift F5.
Huh?
Shift F5.
Shift F5.
हाँ,
इससे क्या?
press.
हाँ?
Press करो Shift F5.
किया ना?
हाँ. Now continue. Let's start. हाँ.
नहीं ये नहीं है रे, ये नहीं है ये. This is not.
Sir, you just read, simply read it. No, no.
1 minute, 1 minute. Just give me 2 minutes to. Because I don't remember. Suddenly I'm gone blank. To be very frank, I'm sorry. Extremely sorry.
It happens. Don't worry. Don't take tension of that you got blank. But if you want to continue, you continue from slide number 32, or otherwise we can conclude the session. If you share these slides to us, then we will save it.
Why it should happen, but it has not happened.
Sir, it's okay. It happens. आप presentation दे रहे हैं, यही बहुत बड़ी बात है sir.
Sir, it happens with us also when we start speaking or presenting. Even I also forgot my content of my slides, but I just start reading whatever written on the slide.
Up to which slide we had come? If you, do you remember?
31. 31.
31 we have done already.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Start from 32. Just start from 32. 31. Start from here only.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but
No problem, sir. Not at all.
I know it's going to be.
आपको लेफ्ट वाला स्क्रॉल छोड़ दो अभी. आप Shift F5 करके start करो.
I have gone totally blank, to be very frank. Suddenly.
No problem, sir. What I
So
suggest,
then-
if you can share this PPT, we will go through the remaining 7-8 slides. If we have any queries, we will send it.
Get back to you. And yes, sir. This is correct.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
But don't worry at all, sir. You just share this slide to us.
We have
It is
not
very-
done this 28 or anything, no, so far. That's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
we have done.
Sir, you have covered almost all the slides.
Are you sure? Because I've suddenly gone
Yes,
blank.
sir. Yes, sir. So you share this slide to us, and I think we can conclude the session if you are fine with that.
I'm really sorry, but this
No
is
problem,
the
sir.
first
Not
time
at
it is
all.
happening to me.
No problem, sir. It happens.
Wait a minute.
So can you start? Can you, I mean, start with 32 or 31 if you are comfortable?
Then it is last only, no, 30. There are only.
Yes, sir.
Or you just start with that. You don't worry whether
Sir,
it is
you
done or not.
already covered all the content, sir.
Yeah, start
Are you
with
sure?
32.
Because suddenly I have gone blank. I'm really sorry.
Sir, I am assuring you, you have already covered up to slide number 31, sir. Yes, sir.
This one?
This slide you are
You
discussing
start,
very much.
you start from here, sir. No problem.
But I
If-
now.
Sir, you don't worry if you are not get, I mean,
No, but why it should happen? You know, this
sir, it
very
happens. It
little-
happens many times. Don't worry.
Suddenly, I don't know.
Sir, but if you can, I mean, start with slide number 32. You can start with that if you are comfortable. Otherwise, we can conclude. I mean, if other members are okay.
Just give me 1 minute.
I mean, in case he wants to conclude, let him come to the last slide. Then we can conclude that. That's my suggestion. Party first or party second.
Which one?
Below.
Sir, in case you want to conclude, you come to the last slide. Then definitely we will go through all the
But why
content.
it should happen? I don't understand.
Sir, it happens. Don't worry.
I mean, I think I was going reasonably well.
Not reasonably, sir. You are batting like excellently. I mean, in fact, I was just putting a message in the WhatsApp also group saying that, you know, what we mastered is only 25% of the valuation game by passing the exam. I know, so to really master and put it at one place in 41 slide, you have given the total book as such. The wonderful material that you have compiled, sir.
but
And
that
very
is not
aptly,
something.
you have injected the points into your thought process. Very aptly. Somebody puts a question, bonus issue, is there anything to be done? Yes, nothing to be done. Something like that. You have made us to really talk to our clients in an authoritative manner, sir. Don't worry, sir. Go to 31 or 32nd slide or go to the last slide. We can conclude, sir.
1 minute. I don't know why it has happened, but I've gone blank actually. I've gone blank.
It's okay, sir. If anybody who has made the slide and they can help in,
The slide is made by me only.
We start reading from this 31 slide. It will be better.
No, now I'm totally disturbed.
Or
Actually.
you can start, sir, with new topic at 34th slide, which is new topic. Then you can start with that also. Yes, if you can recall this. Provision on the SEBI, you can start with this new topic.
yes, sir, please.
Please.
I don't know. Now I'm totally disturbed.
Sir,
So don't take tension
the
for
session
that.
was very fruitful, sir, and it was very informative and knowledgeable session, sir. Whatever you shared in this session, webinar, in fact, I first time knew few very good things that you shared in this PPT.
Yes, many things we overlooked, even reading many times.
But how? Why I have gone blank? I have suddenly gone blank.
Sir, this is normal. We also got blanked. This is very much normal.
When you are stuck in a room, for 2 hours.
I think
Oxygen.
Let us, Sandeep sir, let us conclude the session. Sir,
oxygen supply comes, you go blank.
Sir,
I am really sorry. I've just totally gone blank. I'm not even.
No issue, sir. We'll call you next time, and I think that next time the session will be more wonderful than this one. In fact, in this particular session, you have shared many nice things, informative things which I never knew before. In fact,
it's so nice of you, but I'm really. I have no.
No, sir. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, sir. Here I came to know that CAs and merchant bankers can do valuation under FEMA and SEBI.
Yes, yes.
Yes. In fact, in case of issue of shares, or in case of issue of shares other than cash, we can get the valuation done by merchant bankers and chartered accountants. However, previously I used to understand that every valuation kind of thing is to be done by a registered valuer. Similarly, in case of preferential share allotment, that can be done by chartered accountants and merchant bankers. And many other issues which we have discussed, which I never knew before attending this session, that we don't require any valuation of shares in case of bonus share, in case of buyback of shares. We don't require any valuer or valuation to be done. And other thing is that you also discussed that valuation is mandatory by a registered valuer in case of merger and amalgamation, minority shareholding, purchase of shares in case of cross-border mergers, and valuation of asset for submission of report by liquidator. These valuation is to be done mandatorily by valuer, registered valuer. Sir, your PPT was really very informative and knowledge sharing, and in fact I have gained a lot of knowledge, and I really thank you for giving this wonderful session. However, at last there were few that the things gone the PPT was not as per your requirement, or something got missed out, and we finally cannot conclude it.
No, actually, I'm really sorry.
Informative and knowledgeable.
I'm really sorry, but I have gone totally blank.
But we are very happy to gain the knowledge from you.
I don't know what
and we are very thankful to you, sir.
Sir, just to reiterate my stand, I have noted down the points from your PPT. The 31st point I noted down is IBC talks about avoidable transactions. IBC process with reserve value. These are the points I noted down, sir. So very well you have covered, sir. You are doing a wonderful job, sir. We can meet n number of times, keep discussing. We can share all our doubts with you, sir.
You can share the PPT.
I will do, because I have gone totally blank. I'm really sorry.
But we have enjoyed the session, sir, and the session was very informative and knowledge gaining. And we all are very thankful for your session and for the time which you have given to us. Okay, sir. Sandeep,
I'm extremely sorry. I'm extremely sorry to all the members.
it's fine, sir.
But I don't know. Something is wrong. I've gone totally blank.
At the age of 70, you have done the courage to share the presentation and do it for 2 hours. That is also incredible.
That is also a hats off to the sir. Sir,
we will share the PPT in the group, and then
the people will just, if they want to have any query, then they can contact Mankar Saab. Okay. Sandeep sir.
No, I don't think I can continue now. I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry to all the people.
It's okay, fine, sir.
I will.
I think we will do the formal vote of thanks, and then we will conclude.
Yes, sir. Sir, finally, sir, you should conclude, sir. Sandeep, sir.
Yes.
Please conclude it.
It was a wonderful session, knowledge-wise, and PPT was really marvelous. So we will have the PPT from Mankar Saab and then read it out ourselves, so that we will have full knowledge of it and we will be enriched by it. So thankful really, Mankar Saab, that you have come out and done the presentation for us.
I am extremely sorry. I'm extremely sorry. I have gone totally blank.
No problem, sir.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Shown the courage to do the presentation.
I will do one thing. You give me some mail ID. I will share with you this presentation. I'm sorry.
I will give you mail ID, so you share, and then we will share in the group. PPT is really nice. I think by reading it only, one will have full knowledge of whatever provision you are explaining. So it is self-explanatory and no need.
Do you want me to mail this PPT to on some address?
I will give you on your WhatsApp. So then you should mail it.
I am extremely sorry. I have suddenly gone blank. I don't know what happened.
No problem, sir. It is self-explanatory. I think one who reads the PPT will.
We will be sharing the PPT in the WhatsApp group, so everybody can get it.
Yes.
Where should I send it?
No, sir. You should keep it with yourself. We all will be sharing it in the WhatsApp group, so that whosoever wants to gain the knowledge, he can take it. And if there is any query, he can contact you directly. However, it is very self-explanatory.
I am extremely sorry. I don't know what happened. I want.
No, sir. You should not feel sorry, sir. We are thankful for your session, and we'll meet next time always, and we'll with a new topic. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Finally, thanks to all the participants for joining the session, and let us conclude the session. And good night, all of you, sir.
I am extremely sorry to everybody.
No problem, sir.
It was sorry. I don't know. Suddenly, I have gone blank.
It was as good as finished. All topics you had covered already, and material we have. So we will read it and have the full knowledge whatever you are trying to explain.
Hello.
Bye bye.
Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Where am I supposed to mail the PPT?
I'll send it on Mankar Saab's WhatsApp, so then you mail it on.
Okay, sure. Okay. I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good night, all of you.
Good night, all the.